Okay. So loads of people have done mood boards, and you'll have done them at like at school and college and all that. And usually people do them to go, right, I want a living room to look like mid-century. So I'm going to collect loads of pictures of mid-century stuff, and that's the mood board. So that's usually how people apply mood boards. That's, bless you, but that's not the way I do it when I'm doing artist development. So when I'm doing artist development, what we look at is what are images that mean something. So if I know that someone is doing, I don't know, R&B stuff, I kind of know what R&B visuals are going to look like. But those R&B sort of visuals and that message is going to look like another 100 people. So what is it about you? Because most music is the thing you know with the extra element of something that's different. Because otherwise music just wouldn't move on, would it? You'd just regurgitate the same thing. So it's got to be something. Well, what is it unique? So what we do is we bring in visual elements that mean something. So a mood board should have no other artists on it, no one that you feel is similar. A constant thing. Whenever I've done bands that sound a bit Oasis-y, any of those sort of lads, there's always like mod circles on it and scooters and pictures of, and it's like, no, boring. So what can you bring to it that's uniquely you? And it can be anything. It can be absolutely anything. I've done, it's a bit like coaching really. It's a little bit therapeutic as well. When I've done these mood boards with people, it can be literally a few images that you go, well, that says something completely different that was random. They thought it was just a random thing, but we've managed to incorporate it in a look or a colour scheme. And I'll show you a few examples in a minute. So, and this goes for any brand really. So any branding, think of all the big brands. How many colours do they tend to use at most? So 1, 2, IKEA, couple of colours, Levi's, red and white. I haven't got any brands. I don't really wear them. Mine are discreet, but most of it's a 2-colour thing. When you're doing anything that you want to be recognisable, it is good to try and be consistent with a palette. It doesn't mean you have to be like IKEA and use blue and yellow over everything, but just having a theme and a palette that you touch on. And there's some genres are really obvious with it, that stick to like certain colours. But just think of, I'll ask you a strange question shortly if we've got time. I'll ask you a question that might blow your mind. Anyway, but keep an aesthetic set of rules. But also, I think really important to me, and I keep returning to it, is to plan. Come up with once you've established this thing, then it's a lot easier to plan and also to kind of protect your head when you're posting stuff and kind of thinking, okay, there's a reason for it. I'm not panic posting. I'm not just posting for no reason. There's a reason to do it. I've got also, if you book a meeting with me, I'll show you, I've got a template of a scheduling for, so if you're putting out a track and you've got like a 2-week lead up to it coming out in a 2-week post thing, evaluation of it, I've got a plan that's useful. It's basically a spreadsheet with stuff in it and telling you what to do when, but it just helps people not get stressed. And when I'm dealing with artists that are signed to labels, the pressure is coming from all angles at that point. You've got radio will want something, the press guy will want something, the label has to have something happen at a certain time. And there's going to be so much pressure to post certain things at certain times that it can actually really send people under. So part of my job is to go, okay, let's this is fine, take the pressure off. One of the things I would advise as well, if you are presenting yourself as a singular artist or DJ or whatever online, is to think of it like there's certain parts of your character that are real to you that you will put up online, and just other stuff you just keep well away from it. Almost like you've been given a part in a film. You know, you've been given a character. This is what you do. You say a number of things. You appear in certain settings, and that's it. And keep the rest out of it. And it does, I find, help for some people just to manage that level of stress. And particularly when I'm dealing with people who've got neurodiversity, to just stop the overwhelm. It really does help people just kind of stop feeling that awful weight of the pressure. Now, what shall I show you? I'll show you I'll show you a very, very simple mood board. I'm not going to play this, I don't think, because... So this is an artist. This is a really simple one. I'm going to go much, much deeper. But this is really, really obvious. But this was for a photo shoot. And it's a singer called Georgian. And I don't know, do you know Last Dinner Party? Do you know that band? It's a band called Last Dinner Party. It did well last year. But they were all sort of a bit sort of bohemian and wearing all these flowery frocks and everything. I said it's too similar to this other band. But actually, some of it I quite liked. And so well, as you'll see, this was just particularly for a photo shoot. Just to influence that. But then we kind of moved on from that look, but just for one singular photo shoot. When it comes to more of an intensive campaign, this was an artist that when I was dealing with Murray Chalmers, an Italian artist who had a number of issues with how she wanted to approach social media, how she wanted to avoid the overwhelm of it. And we had to really carefully manage. And she didn't really want to be full face on pictures and things like this. And we said, well, she wanted to be on the sleeve, but not facing the camera. So like, okay, how do we work that one out? But we also wanted it to look, what I find quite often when female artists are being photographed is photographers treat them like models a little bit. So you end up with very posed, model-y type shots, and trying to get away from that as well. So I think if you are going to be photographed, just thinking how you photographed, you know, how you have control over that session, and quite often having a good mood board and going in with the ideas and being very certain on how it's going to look, and direct it rather than them directing you is really important. So anyway, so this is an artist. There's a couple of things you'll notice on this mood, well, might stand out for you. One is, you see, no one's really stood straight, arms by the side. So there's arms and limbs all over the place. There's only one shot there that's kind of really full face as well. And there's a couple of colours happening. And this was distilled from quite a few mood boards into this. So we went through a load of processes. And when I'm working with artists, what we tend to start with is a mood board that's a bit of a mess. Then the next one, you start to see a bit of a theme. And then the next one, where it starts to hone down and you start to pick out, it's almost like distilling something to its essence, where you start to go, okay, we're getting somewhere. But it is a process, and sometimes it takes a lot of honesty from whoever you're working with, but it also takes another eye looking at it and going, well, if you can't see it, we can see something, and it starts to distill. So there's colours there. There's red, there's black, there's grey. There's a way of being photographed. And then similarly with this one, looking at, well, how can you be photographed in an interesting way that isn't necessarily just full on face, but still have a face in a photograph. So we got down to this, and where we get here really is this is the slide that had the biggest influence on how it was going to look, and there was meaning to, and we got quite deep into this. So this is an Italian artist who's moved from Italy to Manchester, was living in some flats just outside Old Trafford, called the Bauhaus Apartments. It's all very grey, quite miserable, compared to where she'd come from, but you've got the red of passion of Italy. So this grey, she was saying, well, this is the grey of Manchester, as she saw it. Manchester, I think we look out, today's quite a nice day, but actually we've just had a month of this, haven't we? And the passion of Italy, and the kind of blocks of colour. So, and that influenced the inner sleeve, and then to the cover. But it all distilled down into a couple of elements that then ran through the whole campaign. So this red, which is kind of signified a kind of passion, the grey of Manchester and the contrast between these two things. And the album was very raw and uncomfortable. So a lot of the photographs she contorted and bent. And it just became like three sort of visual messages that we stuck with through it. Now, some of this might not work for you, but it's just thinking about how can you get across things in an interesting way. What's your message? What are the values of your brand? What are they? What do you want to get across? So another 5-10 minutes. So this my little key for doing a good visual voice and a brand is going through some of that. I've got something else to show you, but going through a process. Leaving it for a few days is a really important one for me, because what you'll do something, you'll think, okay, that's it, leave it for a few days. You'll go back and there might be 5 or 6 images that are very similar and go, okay, well, actually, you know what, I'm going to get rid of 4 of those because that's the actual one. And you can get it down from about 30 down to about 10 and just distill it. Writing a little explanation is a good idea as well. And I'm going to come to a sort of written voice thing in a minute. And that becomes the basis of your message and the visual brand. Now, there's a little method as well I'm going to quickly skip through for you, which is about the written element as well, which I think is just as important. Now, I'm going to ask you a strange question. Heinz baked beans. Does anyone buy Heinz baked beans? Okay. What are the brand values? What do you think of when you think of Heinz baked beans? Just out of interest. I always ask this question of people, just what do they mean to you?
Orange and turquoise, that's all I think of. I don't know if there's any values behind that.
So, okay, when you see it on the shelf, it stands out, doesn't it? Because it's a recognisable brand straight away. You know it. It's got a distinctive colour and shape, which it's got trust. It tastes like all of the beans. Let's face it, but it's got like, oh, actually, Heinz baked. I'm going to get the Heinz ones. There's no real difference to them really. When it's advertised, they're comforting. So the adverts don't go in, these taste better than the other beans. It's not that. It's like, oh, Heinz, thank God we've got some Heinz in, heat them up. Da-da. So there's trust, there's comfort, there's a loyalty to it. It's recognisable. You understand it. It's saying something to you that it's like, it's, oh, good. It's a nice, comforting, got a cold day, let's warm up the Heinz baked beans. Why I'm saying that is, your approach to your branding should have a similar thing. Is it recognisable? Do people know? Do people understand what I'm doing? Do they understand what's different about me compared to the other baked beans? You don't have to be going, my music's better than everyone else's. You've got to show in some way, well, what is it? How will your music or how your brand or whatever you're working on, how will it make me feel? How will it make clients feel? How will I feel? I think, when I'm booking producers for artists that I've been managing, I want to understand, I might have heard the work, but I want to understand what's it going to be like working with them? What's their environment like? Are they all right? Are they cool to work with? What's their working method? I want to get an angle on that as well. So, content pillars. Now, this is another thing it's used if you are working with big label teams and you've got a creative department. They will talk about content pillars. You all right? Do you need any water or anything?
No, I'm just taking on my spit.
Okay. And this might be something you might want to try. You can have a go at it. I think if you are, I tend to use this with particularly bands because there can be a bit of a struggle, and solo artists who are releasing music where they're trying to engage a fan base, right? So, and it's content pillars. And what I do is, I'm not going to ask you to do it because there won't be time, but I try and get, so what are your, what do you stand for? Like we're talking about baked beans, what do they mean to you? But what do you stand for as an artist? What is it you're saying? Because you can't just be selling. So it can be a number of things. It could be what you literally stand for politically. It could be your specific influences you're taking on. It could be political. I think everything feels political. I think just even having an opinion feels political at the moment. So it could be political. Could be your attitude towards sex and relationships. Could be ethical concerns, environment, gender, veganism. Talking about other artists. But I think it's really important there as well to put, if you are a working artist, to put something that's like, you don't have to post every day about what you're doing, but what do you do day to day? What environments are you in? There's too many social media profiles that are just pictures of themselves constantly. Like, well, where are you? What are you seeing? What have you come from? What are you doing today? What equipment are you working with? There's did anyone see Ellen Beth Abdi yesterday? Around for Ellen. She's a proper keyboard geek, right? She takes them apart, looks at them, rips them apart, puts them back together. And I said, well, I think that's pretty interesting, really. It's quite an amusing thing. If that's what you're into, you should post about it and do it, because it's quite funny if you don't know her. And if you're really into keyboards, you're going to really like it. So, what do you stand for? And having a few things that you say and do and that create the world around you as an artist or a producer or a creative that gives some variety to what you're posting. So this is just examples that I've given to artists that I've worked with, of ideas under what the headings could be, and then what kind of stuff could be considered content within those areas that avoids just selling or avoids just. I mean, there was someone I was dealing with a few years ago who's a trans artist, and literally all the posts were about trans issues, which was fine, apart from the following was completely people obsessed with trans issues and not listening to the music. So, well, okay, well, you can build that into there, but as long as there's variety and it's a more rounded profile, a more rounded personality, that 70% is more rounded, then suddenly you're much more interested. It's almost like a Trojan horse. I can if I can charm you enough, I can get you to agree with something that I believe in, But if you're just trying to whack people over the head with it, it's just not going to work. So you've got to build that world around you. So if you do decide to do this kind of stuff, it's you can vary it, and you will get, if you do it on promotional campaigns, you're going to have to skew a bit of selling and a bit of personality because you're going to be under pressure to do it. But your overall goal is just to make sure that everything's well-rounded, it's varied, you're not boring people, you've not got the foot in the door trying to sell them something. You're not, they're not. I've unfollowed a few bands recently because they're just doing my head in trying to sell me tickets to one. I've got 20 tickets left for a show. Have you? I wasn't coming, so it's fine. No, I've got 10 tickets left for the show. Have you? 2 tickets. Have you really? Great. Constant. Okay, so